Yeah, we're back on the SportsMax Zone. We're still talking cricket and addressing the sharp decline of the West Indies game in international cricket over the past decades. And we have Reds Pereira now to join in on this discussion. We just came out of the segment with Courtney Walsh, legendary fast bowler. And Reds has been a cricket commentator and sports broadcaster for over 50 years. So he saw the West Indies rise to being the best in the mid-70s, staying at the best for the better part of 2 decades, and then declining to being 9th and 10th in the world at the moment. Reds, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you on.
Yes, good afternoon. It was nice hearing Cuddy. I'm sorry you didn't hear all what he said, but I got the last part of it, that it was very well made.
Yeah. All right, let me ask you this, though, Reds, because one of the things that Courtney Walsh said, we still have him on the Zoom line, is that he tried to speak about cricket board presidents of his playing years like Sir Clyde Walcott and Alan Ray, who were such solid former cricketers themselves. There was something about how they related to the players that was good for the game. Or recent cricket board presidents haven't been former test players. Do you have a comment on that?
Yes, I support that 100%. The likes of Walcott and Alan Ray and Jeffrey Stallmeyer, they were good cricketers, they were good leaders, and they were extremely close to the players. I mean, Walcott, former manager, Stallmeyer, former manager, Ray, former president of the board. And if you go down the line, Lance, Kenny Wishart was a test player, was the first CEO. Yeah. Stephen Camacho, a former player, CEO at one time. Derek Murray's father, Lance Murray, the late, also very close to the players and the board. And so one can say Joey Carew. So there was a strong connection over the years.
Can I put something to you, though, Reds? Because I remember interviewing Wes Hall when he was president, and under his governance, I think it was one of the first players' strike with the players. And Sir Wes Hall, was very disappointed because he considered himself a player president, a player-friendly president, and he was disappointed that the players had taken that position given the way he related to them. So I'm just saying that against the background of what we are just establishing here, that former players who made a big name in the game would sort of command a kind of energy and respect from the players. But could it be that today's players aren't the same as the players in the 70s and 80s and are a lot harder to manage?
Yes, because the names we have called had played, it really was an advantage. It was an advantage for the administration then, because there was a kind of respect for them. There was a kind of acknowledgement of they played, and the kind of advice and closeness that existed. I remember the period when we had the strike, and I remember I think I was in Barbados at the time, and Wesley Hall was almost a wounded man, But, as you said, after that generation passed, you had people who had played the game at some level, but not at the height of those who had gone before.
It's interesting because we can look at past performances by the West Indies, especially at the World Cup, and we can note the decline. But in terms of the relationship with the players, I suspect that is one aspect, Sir Reds. But the other aspect, in terms of being a West Indies Cricket Board president, is to put in the structure. Based on what you've observed over the years, and forget about player relationships for the time being, or relationships with the players for the time being, which president, in your estimation, put in a proper structure that would have, helped with the development of the cricket in the region?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the gentleman we spoke about at that time, cricket was a total different game. You didn't have the amount of test cricket being played. You didn't have the pressure on administration in the Ray, Stallmeyer, Walcott period, Peter Short period, late Peter Short period. You just didn't have that. Now it's a total different world we lived in. You didn't have the ICC and their own test match schedule. For example, in 1963, we beat England. We played no test cricket in '64. It was much more measured and much more, less pressure. These days, I think the pressure on the administration is too much for the administration. They just cannot cope with the amount of white ball that they have to contend with, the amount of players who might not be available. All those factors, one has to be conscious of.
Well, we speak about pressure on the administrations of the past, right? And I'd like to put you in terms of the pressure that's on the players right now, because if I decide to take up a ball and bat and play some cricket and make some runs in first-class cricket, I'm going to be selected to the senior West Indies cricket team if I have a very good season. And that makes it look ridiculously easy for you to be a part of the regional setup, and you're talking about top-tier competition. Do you think that's an aspect that has indicated or declined the fact that it is so very easy to make a West Indies cricket team right now?
Yes, there are maybe about 4 or 5 players you can say, you can write those names down. Maybe both for the red ball and the white ball, because the selections are changing so very, very fast. Previously, it was almost hard to get into the side. You could virtually write 10 names down for the West Indies Test side, and you can probably add another 2 and see who will get in. The competitive nature of playing now for the West Indies is just not the same as the period of the Walcotts and Rays and Stallmeyer. Then you go down the line. The standard of the first class season is not all that great, and that has a bearing. I mean, we have the shortest first class season in the world. First class season in the world. I mean, we had a strong school structure. The club structure was much stronger. The national stuff. As a boy going to the border to watch a Barbados guy in the game, it was like almost a mini test match. Those days are totally gone. And financially, the board then, under the Walcott, Ray, Stallmeyer period, was much stronger financially than now. The present, the Scarrett administration, the Charlotte administration, just don't have the same kind of finance to run the game in 2023.
Let me end with Courtney Walsh here, Cuddy, because in 1995, when the West Indies lost to Australia and ended a 15-year run undefeated in Test series, you were a part of that team, and it was hugely disappointing for West Indies fans. But no one, including yourself, would have thought that decades later, the decline would have been as dramatic and stark as we are now seeing it. Surely in 95, when you lost to Australia, Cuddy, you didn't think that the West Indies were heading completely downhill, were you?
No, I wouldn't have thought so at the time. But what I can say to you is that even in that series, on the field of play, when things weren't going the way we wanted it to go, there's a couple of players who shed some tears and disappointment about how we were performing amongst ourselves. because it meant that type of feeling to us, and we didn't want to be the team losing to Australia. And I remember it well at Sabina Park that I was a bit consulting some guys when we were running into bowl, and we were very frustrated and disappointed that we were going to be losing that test match and so the series. But I didn't expect that the trend would have continued and we would have gotten to where we are now.
Well, gentlemen, we're going to leave it there, but I think it's a stark statement being made here that Courtney Walsh just mentioned tears being shed when they lost to Australia in 1995 in a test series. Australia were at that time the number 2 in the world behind the West Indies, and the Australians are always strong, and it was so painful for the West Indies to lose to Australia. I can't imagine how these current West Indies players feel losing to the Netherlands, Zimbabwe and Scotland. Back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.